Yo, what's up, guys? It's Rishi TCG here, and today we're gonna go over my OP 8.5 Doflamingo list, the list that I just took to the Treasure Cup, and we're gonna go over just kind of an updated list slash strategy video where we're gonna talk a lot about Doflamingo, its matchup spread currently, and all the cards in this list, and why I think this list is good. But and we're also gonna talk about some potential tech cards too. Yeah, that too. So anyway, let's talk about the matchup spread. So Doflamingo's matchup spread is looking kind of good, and this data is provided by TCG Matchmaking on the rank sim, and we can see that Doflamingo is really just winning into Purple Luffy. It's just like a stomp, and I can tell you from my experience in the online I just played, I won both my Purple Luffy games in almost 10 minutes. So 10 minutes tops. Like, it's crazy. The only two matchups I lost were to Lucci and NL, and as you can see, those matchups are fucked. Like, NL overall being a 29% win rate is just ridiculous. And on top of that, like, Bonnie, like, is kind of difficult, and Lucci's kind of difficult. So, like, how can we make these matchups better? That's like the question. And I mean, generally you will be able to win these matchups if you're just a good Dofi player, and if you don't understand like all the Dofi mechanics and certain mechanics that you need to be understanding, check out my Patreon guide for free, or my Doflamingo advanced guide video that's in the past. But it's on my Patreon for free, and you can get better at the deck. But let's go. We're not gonna really talk about like too much about techniques in this video, but let's get into the next slide. So this is the deck list, and this is the deck list that I ran yesterday. Actually, was it played out kind of good. It has really good matchups into most things, and honestly, I think the Lucci matchup was pretty favorable. It's just like I was kind of Omega rolling by not seeing Jinbei at all in that matchup. However, I do think there's some room for some improvement on this list, but I think this is a really good base point for y'all, and this list will win you locals and stuff like that, and it's very competitive because I've been using this list for pretty much a week. But the only card I just randomly tested out for yesterday was the Red Rock, and that's because I played at a local and I pretty much like was not able to get a win because of a cost kid. So I was like, fuck it, I have to play Red Rock or I'm fucking losing, Okay. So we're gonna talk about the cards instead. Okay, so Boa Blocker is an insane card, but like without me just saying it's an insane, I gotta explain like situations like where we play it at. It's the really the main things you need to know is that on 6th on, if you play Boa, you can basically leader ability and play Boa on the same turn, and then on 10 on you can play 2 4 costs for 8 Dawn, and if one of them is Boa, you're able to have that extra Dawn for leader ability, allowing you to, really get the most advantageous like board turn with this card. This card's a really good blocker. You really don't use it for blocking that much. You mostly want to swing at them, but not only does it block, it reorders your top. So these are some of the reasons I decided to run the set 4. It comes in clutch a lot, and it's a 4/6 blocker, so it is going to hit for 7k with that 1 Dawn attachment. So Teach is a card that I'm running at 4. I'm debating on putting it to 3. I know Jackson Wong just won the regional by running it at 2. However, this card is really important in the mirror, and I was 4-0 in the mirror yesterday in the Treasure Cup. So I think this card is what carried the mirror a lot. However, there is another card I'm going to talk about in a second, and we'll real quick go over that at the end and the potential tech options. However, Teach just all around good card, and the reason Teach is a great card is because in the mirror it's really decided by Bounce Law, and we'll talk about Bounce Law in a second. When we get to Bounce Law, I'm going to explain how to intertwine them both. Okay, so Jinbei Jinbei is run at 4 copies, obviously. Jinbei is super crucial in the Lucci matchup. Jinbei is just a kind of transitive character that just allows you to play another character and establish a body. He's a really good card, and I'd say like definitely gonna keep him at 4. He's never gonna not come out of the deck. I don't really need to explain this. Everybody that plays Dofi is running 4 Jinbei and 4 Weevil. So the Weevil obviously draws you a card. However, like, it's a 4/6. Like, we're obviously gonna keep this in the deck. Sorry, I lost my train of thought real quick. All right, so Gecko Moria, I'm debating. I was like running 3 or 4, and then now I'm at 2. Okay, here's the thing, bro. Jackson Wong said it pretty good. This card is literally just a vanilla, pretty much, unless it's the late game. So I don't know. This card's it can be a little bit bait, but I feel like there are spaces for other cards that we need. And this card is great, but really in the early game when you have no trash, it is just a vanilla. Perfume Femur, this card, some people debate on running it or not, or should I run it because people already play around it. It will steal you games just because they have to play around it. And then they have to play around the fact that you don't have it. Like, it's a good card. It's won me games. And another cool thing you can do with it is that on 2-Don, if you have a Teach on the board, you can play this, and then you get the 2-Don Resto for Teach, plus 2k added to one of your characters. So then you essentially just get 2 extra Don on that turn, and it combos really well with Teach. So you just get, and you could use this just to be more aggressive with Teach and stuff like that. You don't have to have the unblockable thing. Red Rock, I ran at 2. Okay, I don't know how I feel about Red Rock. However, I did have situations where it really came up, and it won me a game into the mirror because I was able to get rid of his Jozu that we kept bouncing into his Jozu's back. I was able to just get rid of his Jozu, and it also won me a game into Katakuri because I was able to get that 7 Mom away and really just live another turn. However, and also, it would be really good into Bonnie. However, I don't know how I feel about it and if I will keep it in my next list. Mihawk, okay, this needs to be run at 4, to be honest, but we're going to run it at 3 in this list. Just because, I mean, we never really want to play Mihawk off the thing, but I guess essentially you want to have more 4, 5, 7 Warlords targets. Okay, so Buggy's pretty decent because you can use it to set up the bounce law. However, it only tops 3 and you can't bottom it. So it is kind of like one of the worst out of the 3 searchers we basically have, or reorderers or rearrangers. However, you got to run a couple of these. Whether you want to run this or the Croc 2K is up to you. Honestly, I could see people running the Croc 2K over this just because it has some objectively good use cases into, I think, the BY Luffy matchup because the Croc can bounce their babies back. However, Buggy just allows for more consistency and a better all-around deck. Alright, so Law's pretty good because the thing about Law is you can leader ability on turn 1 into decks where you want to keep your counter or they're going to starve you, like NL, and you don't want them to hit your rested character on turn 1. Even in the mirror, essentially, because you want them to hit your life, right? You can play this guy, swing 7 on 3-Don, and then, you can bounce this guy back to hand. They have the bottom of a card, and you don't have a rested character out there, so they have to hit your life, essentially. Okay. We got Perona. Perona is pretty good because it just lets you see top 5, essentially letting you, either bottom it or reorder it. Bottoming it is good because you can get out of these really clumpy parts of your decks if your deck's clumping. However, some people don't like to play Perona, but, I might play 3 at the least, but I think I'm always going to play a couple copies of Perona. Jozu is probably, I'm thinking about bumping this guy to 4. However, Jozu's like, a crazy card because it's so crucial in the mirror because it's hard for them to bounce it unless they have Jozu. However, that can be fucking annoying if they do have Jozu. So we're going to talk about another card that, props to Jackson Wong for finding it out. That is really useful in the mirror, actually. and it's kind of like a really nifty tech that he added, and it's searchable, so you don't really need to play that many copies of it, you know. So now that we're done with, talking about the deck list as itself, I think the only card we really missed was Bounce Law. So let me really quick talk about Bounce Law. So Bounce Law and I think we missed Bounce Law and Sengoku. So let's talk about Bounce Law. Bounce Law is a crazy card because it allows you to put a 4 cost back into hand, or any card back into hand and bounce a 4 cost. So in matchups like the mirror, you need to play Teach and then keep spam Bounce Lawing and putting the Bounce Law back in your hand unless you have another copy, essentially, so that you can clear their board and just keep aggroing them out. Essentially, whoever sets up that engine first, that Teach Bounce Law engine, will win first, and then on top of that, you can pudding them, right? So Bounce Law, really crucial card, and on top of that, if they don't have anything to bounce, you can even play your Sengoku, your Perona, and bounce both of them back. And you can learn a lot more about this in my Patreon guide. Okay, so let's talk about pudding though. So pudding is a really crucial card into a lot of matchups. However, my rule really is that you have to pudding them only when they have 8 cards in hand, and really think about the math on this, on like if you should just bounce something back to their hand and then they'll have 8 cards in hand. Don't forget that you can bounce shit back to their hand and then they'll have 8 cards in hand. But yeah, so otherwise, if you Perona putting them when they have like 7 cards in hand, it's kind of troll, because they put, like, you could have just swung 7 and they would have lost 2 cards the same way. So you know what I'm saying? Okay, now I think the only other card I really want to talk about here is Sengoku. And let's talk about Sengoku, because I think that's the last card I haven't talked about. Sengoku is probably the best card in the deck, one of the best cards in the deck, because it lets you just rapidly search through your deck, and with a lot of the cards in the deck, it lets you put Sengoku back. I would probably prioritize putting Sengoku back other than a lot of the other searchers, just because Sengoku allows you to get a card like Boa or Jinbei or just any of your pieces that you need or Teach, So running Sengoku at 4, don't run it below the minimum. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the, let's duplicate this page. Let's say run it 3. Let's duplicate that page and place the Sengoku in. Alright, cool. Alright, so let's talk about this card. The 7 cost Dofi from the starter deck. SCO3, back in the day, this card was kind of shit. 7K, not a really good stat line. However, it's a 7 cost. Okay, and Jozu can't bounce a 7 cost. Nothing can bounce the 7 cost. So this will stop the bouncing mirror. So this card's a really good tech card for the mirror. As you can see, it bounces a 7 cost. It bounced their Jozu, and they can't bounce it back. It will stick to the board 7K every turn. They have to swing into it. It's a strong body, and in the mirror, this could be the card, And not only that, it bounces a 7. It reaches some crazy thresholds into even I think, like, it can bounce a 6 cost, which can be annoying in certain matchups if they play a 6 cost. That's annoying. I'm trying to think of a good 6 cost, but I can't really think of that right now. However, this card is really good. I think it's really good. Okay, let's talk about Kaido. Kaido, we didn't think we were gonna run this card, but we're back at it because turns out NL can fucking just destroy us, and drawing 4 seems pretty good. And on top of that, if NL has to Raigo, they're wasting their turn. It seems like it's a pretty good bet into winning the NL matchup, or at least making it a little bit more challenging for NL. That, and it can come up in the mirror. It can come up in various situations. Whether you run it or 1 or 2 depends on, like, if you expect to play a bunch of NLs. If you don't expect to play a bunch of NLs, maybe run it at 1. However, I think if you expect to play a bunch of mirrors, there is a chance that I think that, like, you should not run this at 2 and instead, like, choose to run the Dofi that we just talked about it too. Okay, well, that's it, guys. That's my updated Doflamingo guide on, the deck profile and everything. And if you like content like this, be sure to check out my other videos, check out my Twitter where I tweet about Doflamingo, how I'm doing at locals, and check out my Patreon. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.